Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We've moved on to the Recon tab for Eurocorps, moving through, making some unit comparisons and recommendations with the instructor Bikefish from the Bootcamp Discord. Highly recommend that you check out that Discord if you're interested in 1v1. And we're looking at the Recon tab. We already have 2 units placed in here. You didn't miss a video. These are the 2 units that 99% of people will take, even if they're new to Eurocorps, the Pontu Tiger and Commandos Para in a VAB T2013. What we really want to talk about are these other slots. What fits in here, why, how does it make the deck work, and what should you end up taking to have a powerful and flexible Recon tab as Eurocorps. And we're first looking at the AMX-10 RC, as well as the AMX-10 1390. And Bikefish, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so I'm going to start by saying that, while we only have 2 units in here right now, running EC with anything other than 5-card recon is like a really bad idea. The EC recon tab is so stacked. While we're only going to talk about a couple of units which you can use to fill these 4 slots and give you a recommendation, there is lots of variation to be had within here, and definitely something you should try and play around with lots of different combos for. But to start off, we're going to take a look at 2 ground-based vehicles and discuss kind of the differences between them. The first being the AMX-10 RC. This is just a solid little wheeled recon tank. By virtue of being a recon vehicle, all of the vehicles in this tab are going to have something over their non-vehicle counterparts, which is they're going to have better optics and they're going to have better stealth. That means they are inherently better at spotting things and they are inherently better at not being spotted in return. 1390 also has these capabilities. However, these units are vastly different from each other. Because the 10RC has wheels, it's ideal for keeping up with a lot of the other wheeled assets we've taken in previous tabs, such as VAB T20s, to give you fire support for infantry. The 1390 being tracked is a little bit slower, but the 1390 also has a slight omission from its unit card, which is that rate of fire we see on there is actually the cyclic rate of fire. So it takes into account the long reload period that this tank historically had.
So
What this
to
actually
translate that, this AMX 1390, it does very high, what you would call in other RTSs burst damage. So
20 RPM.
Yeah, it shoots very quickly, and then it has a relatively long reload cycle where it's doing nothing, which sounds bad unless you can handle whatever it is in front of you while that burst is ongoing and you get the reload when there's nothing else left. So the role for this is very much anti-light IFV and anti-infantry in the open as the game gets established, when the AMX-10 RC is more of an opener pressure unit that can keep up with your opener, provide that punch. But then as the game goes on, the 10RC will get ground down by your opponent's medium or even light tanks that have enough armor to survive and then punch back at fragile 3 frontal armor.
Mm-hmm. And the 10RCs overall are also just going to thrive in lower intensity areas. Well, the 1390s are something you bring in, as additional fire support into where you're trying to make a big attack. So with the 1390, you can melt infantry that's out in the open. A 2 or 3 stack of these will dispatch anything in the open that is soft and squishy relatively quickly, while the 10RCs are going to be adapted, just providing that gunpowder to wield assets. You can definitely run both of these units side by side. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the next pair of kind of things that are reasonably similar, and then get into why you would take some of these to fill up the full recon tab. That next pairing is the Commandos Para and the Puma Pirate and the Gazelle Cannon.
So one of these is clearly infantry and the other one is not. So you said they're relatively comparable. Why is that? If one of these needs to deploy, if it doesn't have a helicopter that has good optics on its own, why are these competing for sort of the same or a similar slot?
So the reason I typically pair these units off against each other is having additional helicopter-based recon in EC can be very nice. While the PA-2 is an incredibly good unit, it is very expensive. It is more limited in terms of its availability. So having additional helicopter-based recon can definitely be something that really makes the EC tab extremely comfortable when you're learning how to play it. What form that helicopter-based recon takes is also up to a comfort choice. By having access to a shock infantry squad that the Commandos Para are, in addition to being a recon unit, inside of a helicopter, it gives you something which can get to lower intensity or farther away areas of the map very quickly, which then allows you to do something within that area that you otherwise might not be able to because a wheeled unit would take too long to get there, or God forbid, a tracked one. While the Gazelle Cannon just gives you additional airborne recon, armed with a small but reasonably effective gun in that 20 mil cannon you see strapped to the side, and that can allow you to use it to serve as a picket or other just kind of like scatter about all over the place recon.
Gotcha. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Let's fill out the rest of this tab for our viewers here. What would you put in these 3 slots?
So, just for everybody's reference, all 4 of these units kind of compete for these 3. So please feel free to mix and match depending on what your deck and play style really feels comfortable with. If I were recommending a starting point for a new player, I would say 10 RC, 1390, and Commandos Para in Pirate.
And are those up vet or down vet?
That is to taste for the 10 RC. You never up vet 1390s because you can burn through 12 of them incredibly easily.
Oh, I have. I for a while, actually, for team games, I take 2 down vet and I'll use all of them, and it's insane. And then for that last slot?
Commandos Para can either be run up or down.
Gotcha.
It kind of is a thing I would say starting down and see how much you use them.
Right, and that's sort of what we said when we were in the tank and infantry tabs as well. If you don't run through most of a card pretty much any game, just upvet them because, well, you may as well get the extra efficiency from that unit during gameplay. So that's going to be our look at the Recon tab, a pretty short look comparatively with some of the other factions, but I think thorough. We said what needed to be said, looked at what needed to be looked at, and we'll be back with another unit comparison here tomorrow.